Rule 42. All persons more than a mile high must leave the court immediately.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Hey everyone, Rule 42 producer Tom Smith here. Today, Audrey and Jenn have an amazing guest on the show. She's an author, she's a speaker, she's a business owner, and a mom. Today, we're going to hear the incredible story of the amazing Allyson Roberts.
Today's rule is rule number 5. Never take angel moments for granted.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we were so excited to read your story and talk to you because let me tell you, empowering women is all what I'm about. And to know like those stories of going from nothing to building yourself into something, dude, some people take that coming from nothing and use it as a way to victimize themselves. So to like see someone go through essentially a story similar to mine is amazing and so empowering. I'm so happy to be able to speak to you today and learn more about it. So I'm Audrey. This is Jen.
I'm Jen.
And then we have Mr. Smith over here.
Yes. Now I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be quiet for this interview.
I'm usually quiet.
I'll be quiet. I'll just produce.
Great. So Allyson, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, like where you started from?
So my start is a rough one. I was the product of an affair, which I didn't find out until I was 42. And like finding that out and finding out that my dad wasn't my dad, like hindsight, like looking back, I was treated horribly.
So he knew.
Oh yeah.
He knew. Okay.
But yeah, he knew. Everyone knew. Like pharmacist, the pediatrician, like my family, like all of our friends.
You were the only one that didn't know?
Right. It was like the Truman Show. It really was like the Truman Show.
No.
Seriously. And there's a whole story about that I won't get into. But the household that I was raised in was already like violent and dysfunctional, extremely toxic. But then in addition to that, like watching all of my aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, like treat my sibling different than they treated me, added just a whole other layer to, I'm not wanted. I don't belong here. This is, I don't know if I can cuss on here, but
I'm sure.
Like totally
Be yourself.
Like basically just, I felt like my life was bullshit. I really did. And my saving grace, because everyone always asks me, like, how do you survive, watching your siblings be beaten and you getting beaten? And then, like, my mother punished us with food. And so there was never food in our house. I remember when I was like 11 years old and some friends had come over to my house, which was really rare. And one of my friends was like, let's get a snack. And I was like, what's that? We ate breakfast, maybe, rarely. And then lunch was at school. And then dinner was, maybe not. And this was after my parents were divorced and it was just my mother and me living at home.
And I just like to say for a moment, this is why programs are so important in these schools where they provide meals for throughout the summer for children and families. Not everybody is part of that 1%. A lot of people go through this and everyone thinks that they're alone and they're not. And this is why there's so much emphasis and so much support should be put behind making sure that these programs keep going. But continue, please.
Yeah. It's a lot more prevalent than people realize because kids don't talk about it.
No.
I didn't talk about it every time, like that particular day I was like, oh, my mom, she just hasn't gone to the grocery store yet. And they were like, well, there has to be something. And so, you know how kids are,
Yeah.
There's no boundaries, so they
No.
started marching to my house and opened the refrigerator, and there was a potato. And and people are like, "Come on, you're lying, Allyson." I'm not lying. There was a potato and a bottle of ketchup and some other condiments on the side door, and that was all that was in our refrigerator. And my friend was like, "We can make French fries."
Oh.
And so she just like, and we're still friends today. And she's amazing, but she did not want me to feel that shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she was like, "We're going to make French fries." And so we started, I was like, "How do we do that?" And so we held the potato and like, she's like, "You got to have some oil or butter or something in here somewhere." And we had vegetable oil and, I made my very first French fries. I made French
That's
fries.
awesome. Those are the best ones too.
They are so good.
So I say this to say that, I didn't take those like little angel moments for granted, like ever. And they stuck with me. Like that kind of love, like it stuck with me.
Some people did show love, and they did reach out to you. And
Yeah.
I mean, look, we come from very similar backgrounds. I was all over the place. I never felt like I belonged anywhere. People ask me, "Where are you from?" And I go, "I don't know." I was born in New York. Moved when I was like 2 to Georgia. Moved back up to New York, 9. Ended up getting adopted at 10. Moved into Jersey. It's a crazy, but like you were shown love. I was shown love. I was shown that not everyone out there is considerate, and there are good people out there, and we can be a part of that. And that's so amazing that like those people came into your life. Is that the drive that made you realize you wanted more?
No. No. I was mad.
It kept you from being bitter.
Yeah, it kept me from being bitter. But I was a classic mess. I mean, really. Just, trying to find love, in boys, and I never did drugs, thank God. And I've never had an alcohol problem, thank God. But I could have,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
really could have. No, I think what motivated me finally in my life to really want more and get out of survival, because I was just in survival for so long, was when my daughter and I found out that my dad was not my dad. I was 42 years old, and I was just like, you know what? Enough is enough of this family bullshit. Like I'm so done with it. And because their response to it was, "Well, nothing changed for us."
What?
Wow. You're still Allyson to us. And, they just made it all about them. And I'm like, you know what? This is it. I'm done. And I was still, working in corporate America, and, just grinding and making other people rich, and making other people, be able to take month-long vacations to Bora Bora and all that stuff. And all that. Nope. I am not living this life anymore. And literally on April, it was my birthday on April 3rd in 2012. I said, "Fuck this." And I walked out. I walked out of the job. I had enough money in my accounts to pay my bills for 2 months. And I'm like, I'm going to just do that. And so I had a little room in my garage that didn't have any heat or air conditioning or anything. It had a window and a door. And I a friend of mine came over and she was like, oh, we can fix this. And she painted it this beautiful color. And she and her husband hung this like gorgeous chandelier in it. And they put down hardwood floors. And she's like, you're a business.
There it is. Amazing.
And it is amazing. She's incredible.
This is the same
Yeah,
girl,
the
the
same
French fries.
No, different
Oh,
person.
like, yeah.
Yeah, different person. And so I just started doing intuitive coaching and readings in this little room in my garage. And then I was 2 years into that, and one of my clients was like, I say this with so much love. You know, when people say that, you're like, oh shit.
I know.
And she's like, you're so much more than that, Allyson. She's like, you're so much more than that. I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you need to write a book. You need to be on stages. And I'm like, and that's never going to happen. It's like, that's never going to happen. And so she, thank you, Frida, you're listening. Another friend that was a client turned friend, she gave me a plane ticket and a VIP ticket to fly out to San Diego and be in the presence of Lisa Nichols. And it literally changed my life. Lisa Nichols was on The Secret, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And she also was just like, you are hiding. She's like, you're hiding, girl. You're hiding in plain sight. And I was like, all right. So I started working on my book. I started sticking my toe in the water to speak on people's stages. And then everything just went,
That's
I blew that.
amazing. In a good way.
In the best way.
Because if I'm not mistaken, you at one point were homeless. Pregnant.
Yep. Living in my car.
Yeah. So you went from a traumatic childhood to a traumatic experience for something that's supposed to be this amazing thing in your life. Like, it's a baby, it's another life. And here you are, and you just kept going and you didn't give up. And you are now, like you said, like you were you're dabbling, you had so much support behind you and encouragement, and you were able to build something, and you did that. Nobody did that for you. People just kind of told you, hey, I see you, and you were so much more, but you did it. You raised yourself. And it's so funny that you were talking about how like toxic your family was. The woman that raised me, she passed away, but she would always tell me that sometimes you'll get to a point in life where in order for you to change and in order for you to better yourself, because ultimately who are we here for? To better ourselves. Like, what happens to the rest? We have to be good in ourselves before we can help anybody else. So she told me that sometimes you end up having to eliminate people from your life in order to do that. And unfortunately, sometimes that's family. And family can be just as toxic to who you are and who you can become as anyone else that you meet in life. So you finally got to the point where you were like, no, these people are really toxic. And
yeah, and it's crazy because I think every adoptee goes through this of like, where did I come from? Who is my quote unquote real parent and all of that. So I actually tracked him down. And
how'd that go?
Terrible.
No, really?
Yeah. And it changed it. What people don't understand is that it changes your whole identity, because I went from being the baby of 4 to the baby of 9.
Yeah.
And then you're going out on dates and people are like, so tell me about your family. And I swear, like, I was on a date like a month ago and this guy's like, so Allyson, tell me about your family. And I'm like, no, we're good. And he just started cracking up and he's like, for real? And I was like, we need a few more dates and you need a few more dates.
That's great.
Yeah. So Yeah, you're right though. I barely have any family in my life. Which is crazy because
But it's okay because look where you
yeah,
are.
yeah,
I feel like sometimes you find friends that become family because my story is similar to yours. I grew up with a stepfather. It was a very toxic upbringing. I knew he wasn't my dad. I never knew my dad, and I found him again later in life. But where my story differs is he didn't know about me. He didn't know I was born or anything. So we started kind of forming a relationship, and we're just recently now connecting and talking.
Because we have a friend that was also adopted, and she knows she was adopted, but does not know her real parents at all.
Yeah.
And her issue is not, she came from a very, like, she loves her adopted mom and all of that, but her thing became health.
Yeah.
There was no way for her to know, and she's tried so hard to track them down, like went to wherever, well, I think it was like way back when. And she tried the ancestry, all of that. She cannot find her parents or even any information about them. And literally all she wants to know is more about anything, health issues.
Yeah.
Anything she should be
know.
concerned about, mental, like there's so much information that we garner from knowing about our family members.
yeah. It's crazy that we're talking about this because the son that I was pregnant with, in my car, I placed him for adoption. And it was a closed adoption, meaning that,
no
he knew
contact.
nothing about me. I knew nothing about him. And 24 years after he was born, I was literally woken up in the middle of the night. Like I felt like someone shook me awake. And I heard this voice that was like, it's time. Now for people who are like, okay, you have one of these crazy people, I just want you to keep listening.
No,
The coolest thing.
It's true.
The coolest thing ever. So I called Catholic Social Services, who handled the adoption, and I explained, my situation. And she was very sweet, but she was just like, listen, it's a closed adoption. I can't make any guarantees for you. And it's probably going to take a, decade, right? Because this is before DNA. This is before 23andMe.
Yeah.
Stuff. And I was like, I don't care. I want to get started. So she faxed me the paperwork. This is how long ago. So
there's no emails.
yeah, I was all email, but she faxed me the paperwork. I got it. I filled it all out. I faxed it back in the next morning, and she called me a couple of hours later, and she was like, "What are you doing right now?" And I was like, "What's wrong?" Because she had told me the day before, like, "You'll hear back from us immediately. Like, if he's deceased or, in the system, like if he's in jail or something, we'll know right away." Mm-hmm. So, I was like, well, what is it? Is he a felon? Did he murder somebody? Like, what's going on?
Oh,
And she was like, no. She's like, actually, the two of you faxed your paperwork in at the exact same time.
Oh, it was meant to be. You were supposed to friend each other.
that's
Yeah,
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, it's in my book. I talk about it, but yeah, and we were standing across from each other like 5 days later.
That's so cool. Do you have a relationship with him now?
We are Facebook friends.
It's
I think it's hard for him,
Yeah.
it's hard to find out what to say and kind of know. It's hard. I know coming from as a child, it's hard sometimes, and you start talking, but then you're just like, I don't know what else to say to you.
Right,
And
exactly.
you're like you feel like you should know them because it's your parent, but then it's like it's a stranger, and it's hard to kind of be like, how do we form this relationship that it's challenging.
And it's interesting because Jen actually was not originally looking for her father because of a phone call that was made. to her sister.
Yeah.
Her sister called.
Yeah.
Um,
There's it's a weird situation that we were in. Like he had no clue that I was born. So it's I kind of found them through Facebook. Well, through Googling and Facebook, and I messaged people, and I kind of was just like, hey, might be your daughter. Not a weirdo, like not looking for anything. I don't want to like, I'm not trying to like look for a handout. I was like, I just want to know like who you are and if you're my dad. And, so I went the route on, hey, I did 23andMe and Ancestry. So why don't you just take it? And if we're related and you're my dad, then great, let's move forward. And if not, I'm really sorry for
Yeah.
like, so sorry. Just kidding. Have a nice life. But, it's hard. It's hard. And then, like, when you are meeting these new people to kind of see how you fit into their life. And,
Yeah, well, my sister told me when I was in Hawaii visiting her, but she didn't mean to tell me. She said, does it bother you that you're a half sibling? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, you don't know? Boom. And then
that's how you found out?
and then my mom is completely mentally ill. And so she went to the pastor of my parents' church. It was one of the largest churches in Atlanta at the time, and that's who impregnated her. They had an affair. But then she went to him and was like, I'm pregnant. What are we going to do? Because my stepdad had a vasectomy. And so she was just like, what are we going to do? And the next Sunday, when they went back to church, my father had contacted the Presbyterian Association of whatever, and they moved him. They moved him to South Carolina. No, this was in 1964. Like there was this is like you could disappear. And
yeah.
So my mother had no idea where he was. They wouldn't tell her. So then she started another affair with another minister at another church. So my stepdad, thought that was my biological father, was the second dude. Yeah, so he went to his church and shot him.
What?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, he lived, but he had a big hole in him.
No.
Wow.
This is in the 60s.
Yeah, this is in the 60s. Yeah. Yeah, he blew a big hole in him. And then I was born a couple of days later. So my mother is in the maternity ward having me, and her lover is also in the maternity ward because there weren't any beds anywhere else, recovering from the hole that my dad had shot in him. And meanwhile, my biological father is like, hey,
Having a
life.
That's like,
We like scot-free in South Carolina. Like,
he knew this guy got shot too.
yes, because they were best friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just like,
Wow. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
yeah. So my therapist was like, you have chronic PTSD because there's no pre-Allyson. Like a lot of people have PTSD and they can recover from it pretty quickly because you can draw from the comfort in your life prior to the incident.
Yeah.
Right. Like guys that go off to war and they come home and like their family like really sincerely loves them and they have all these good memories and all this stuff. Like they can be like, oh yeah, there's something, right? There was nothing. Like she's like, your garbage started like in the womb.
Yeah.
She could hear the arguing and the fighting.
Yeah.
Hear like my mother was screaming when she found out, that this dude Herman was shot by my dad. So I'm in the womb, 2 days from being born, like hearing my mother just like scream at this horrible, like horrific screams. And so it's so funny because I went to this retreat that my therapist recommended, and all of this woman is like, she had no idea what it was, and she was like, so we're going to go back into our mother's womb. And I was like, no, I'm not.
That's where it started. No, thank you.
I'm leaving.
Oh, no. So you feel like you're constantly searching for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, my whole life is coping skills and emotional regulation, and my sense of humor. Like, I think that my sense of humor is what has really saved me a lot of times, because I can find humor in the darkest and shit. Like, I'm like, oh my God, that's like so funny. And everybody else is like, okay.
Laughing definitely does get you through some hard times. I know that's my coping mechanism as well, as I laugh and I joke. My husband passed away when my children were young, and being at the wake and funeral, I was giggling, and I wasn't giggling because like I think it's funny he died, but like that was my way of kind of getting through a hard situation, was kind of laughing and trying to make light of something that's not that great.
We tend to send each other things, and whenever you see we're going to hell in the comment section, we know it's going to be a good one.
Is that him and your?
Oh.
So that's Harry Styles.
I'm like, do you have like
a giant cutout of my husband? No, I do not. That is not my husband. That is Harry Styles.
That would be awesome. Every now and then she goes and takes a picture.
Yeah, what could have been. See, again, my inappropriate laughing about making light of stuff that is not funny. But no, my daughter is a Harry Styles fan, and my sister sent that for her birthday, and she was too scared to have him in her bedroom because, it's just some dude staring at you. So he's been floating around my house. Yeah, he's very smiley. Harry's happy.
Well, you know what I thought it was? I thought that your background was like a photo.
Oh,
And then
what is it? Like, yeah.
yeah, like a photo, like, and that maybe he was like standing in the door, like,
and the picture watching over me. That's our podcast.
That's actually, we went to see Back to the Future 2 days ago.
Oh, such a good show.
Such an amazing show on Broadway.
Yeah.
But that creepy smile on Harry's face was us the entire time watching it. We were like, this is amazing. And
I know, we were like, we're so happy. We're so smiley.
We actually wore jellyfish costumes to the show.
On the way to the show. Not at the show.
I have anxiety issues around like crowds and stuff, and it just kind of keeps me from doing stuff. And yeah, I take medicine, but it only does so much. So this is, again, you find that person that will do the dumbest shit with you and you keep them forever. We decided to go on an adventure. I'd just kind of been in a really like fucked up place, emotionally, mentally. So we went out and we started photobombing people's pictures in Hudson Yards. And then we went to the edge again. So what I've been going through had create that same feeling that I get when I'm doing something that would cause a panic attack. Was basically what I'd been going through all weekend. And I was like, well, fuck this. This is how I'm going to feel, I'm going to get something out of it. I'm going to do shit that I don't do because I'm so scared to do it. I'd actually been to Hudson Yards 7 times to go on the edge, that platform that juts out the side of the building, and couldn't do it. I'm afraid of elevators.
No way.
I'm afraid of heights.
Hell no.
Yeah, I love it.
That's not how
I did it. You did it. I did it. I did it.
Wow.
I was scared. When we first walked, I was like hugging the wall. I actually did it for the first time by myself. It took me 7 tries, but I did it. 7. Wait, where is this? Yeah. Well, and then we went as a group, and then we parked the cars near like the theater district and got out, and I was like, okay, we're doing this. We're going through Times Square. There's so many people. And we had inflatables in the trunk.
We have a bunch. So one day we were just like, we need all of them. We were like buying like jellyfish, this, that. We bought so many because we were just like, yes, we need this one too, and this one, yes. So we have there's like a bag of them in her trunk. So
we decided that that's what we were doing.
That's hilarious.
And let me tell you, one, it was the quickest I've ever gotten through Times Square because people move when they see huge squids coming or jellyfish coming at them. But it was also the most comfortable I've been in a crowd. You know, we all like find our own ways of adapting, getting through situations that are hard. And we don't talk about it because we think, oh, like I'm constantly telling people I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm crying.
Oh, yeah, that's a charm. Yeah. I used to use it like a comment.
Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Yes.
oh, definitely.
Here I am. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm in your space. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm crying again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm here. I'm sorry I'm alive. It's like, that's what it felt like. Apologizing constantly.
All the time. And you
All the time.
And then you apologize for apologizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. I'm saying sorry. Like, I don't even know why I'm sorry. Just ignore me. But it's so good to see people coming out of that and like coming out so well. Like even her husband, like I said, I just like seeing people come from so much shit and like making themselves into something and then creating something for their for their futures.
Yeah.
Like her husband decided like, hey, you know what? School's not for me in this way. Maybe I'm more of this type of mind and I'm more of this directional person. And he is fucking doing amazing now. And he is one of the kindest souls you will ever meet. Like he's
all about.
She will be home alone and people will be walking into her garage.
Yeah, the neighbors, everyone. He just wants to help everyone. He's like, come use my tools. What do you need fixed at your house? I got you. What? We have to like rewire your house? I'll come do it. We'll do it together. He's just like, yeah, he had an electrical. He's a lineman now, which he loves because now he loves helping people restore power and he loves traveling to other states where people don't have power and have like experienced like, storms or stuff like that. So he's very big on that. And he's also really big on going to the schools. He goes to high schools and stuff, talking to the kids and being like, you know what? College isn't for everyone and that's okay. And there are other ways to make money and have a good living to provide for your family. And he was like, no one ever did that for me. And he was like, I think it's cool that I can go and I can do that for other people and help kids and help people like me that like had no direction and weren't sure what to do. And now he's like, yeah, you can have a good job. There's so much out there for you and so many possibilities. And I'm here to help you. And he's like, I got you. So it's pretty cool to
what's so huge about that too, Jen, is that the people that came into our school and like the teachers, those were some of my biggest influencers. Like I remember to this day a woman that came into our school and her daughter had overdosed on drugs. And this was back in Reaganomics and, Nancy Reagan was like, just say no and all the things.
Yeah.
But listening to her talk about, how beautiful her daughter was and how funny she was and how smart she was, but that she didn't know it and she didn't feel loved and she never felt beautiful and how she, started taking drugs. Like, I wish I could remember the woman's name because I would try to find her and just say like, thank you. Because I would be at parties and people would be, passing, joints around, which now is not a big deal. But at the time, back then it was like, miracle.
Oh, well, at that time, weed was the gateway drug to everyone.
Yes.
Had then.
Right. And so, listening to her in the 8th grade made me say no. Like I would say no.
That's amazing.
And I'm so thankful for that because one of the parties, it was laced with something else. And so all of my friends were like throwing up and sick, and ambulances had to come and like all the things. And I was one of the only ones at that party that, wasn't high off of this PCP or whatever it was. And so your boyfriend is just, he may not think that it's a big deal, and like he may just be enjoying doing it because it's cool or whatever.
Yeah.
But he is impacting.
Oh,
life.
definitely, for sure. I know he is. I also used to go to high schools and speak as well. I was in a car accident, and my friend passed away, but I would go into schools right before homecoming to talk to the high school kids about drunk driving and the backside of drunk driving that you don't really hear. I know that helped a lot. It helped me kind of work through my stuff, but I think it also really helped the kids that were kind of not thinking. They're just thinking, hey, we want to go party and have fun. And then, they don't think of the other side. So I felt like giving them that other side to kind of keep in the back of their brains while they're out with their friends and kind of trying to party was
It's planting those little seeds.
Yeah, those little seeds definitely, I think, help.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hear a little more about your businesses and what other stuff you have kind of brewing.
So my business is Unapologetic Power. You can go to AllysonRoberts.com and find out all the delicious things that we do. But I've built a triangle, and it's the triangle of the 3 B's. And it's belief is the first part of the triangle. Bestseller is the second part of the triangle, and big ideas is the third part of the triangle. So I help women and men. We started including men a few years ago, and it's so wonderful to have the mix of both, and people who are binary. Understand that your story is your power, and so we help people write their self-help books. We help get on stages, TEDx stage, and just really become the boss of their brain. We help, like, Audrey, I would love to just get my hands on you. I just help you with this like intrusive thought. So that's all I could think about when you were talking. It's like, oh my God, the intrusive thought.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that is because it all started with my book. This is The Spiritual Journey. You can find it on Amazon. But it's writing my story, and the healing process that I went through, and writing my story, just sort of releasing the shame and the guilt, and understanding that, I'm going to stand in my story instead of run from it.
Yeah.
Or hide from it. That's what I help people do. And it's so rewarding. Like, even if people don't want to do the book or speak on stages, and they just want to overcome their intrusive thoughts, we do that too. I don't force you to write a book or talk about that if you don't want to. But it's just becoming the boss of your life. It's so freeing. It's absolutely so freeing, because I wasn't for so long. I believed all the garbage that I told myself, that I would never amount to anything, that, men only wanted me for sex, that, I was a fucked up, crazy, lying loser. Like, all the things that my mother just constantly told me, drama queen, and all the things, like, I believed all of it. And I lived a life in those beliefs, and it was very sad. It was very sad. And the day that I was just like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Just taking that one step of like, I don't have anything figured out. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I don't care. I'm going to be the boss of this anxiety and this crippling feeling in my body, because I'm tired of it. When you get to that point, you cannot do it alone.
No.
You can't do it alone. And there's a place for therapy. You know, some people that come to me and want help, I'm like, I'm not your person. You need therapy.
Yeah.
But coaching is where you've like had the therapy and now you're just ready to just like jump. And you need somebody who's jumped already to tell you like everything that you're going through is normal and natural and you're going to be okay. And
You're not alone.
Right. You're not alone. Right.
And that's a big part of what people hide from. Everyone thinks that they're alone.
Yeah, you don't realize how many people have actually experienced stuff similar to you or the same feelings and kind of
Exactly.
help you work through them. That's
I had a military friend that hung himself, and none of us know why. His wife came home and he was just there. And we would have all been there. Like, if he had just called us, any of us would have dropped anything to go see what was going on. But I know what it's like to be in that crippling, and you don't want to talk to anybody, and you don't want to, because you don't want to feel like a burden to other people, and you don't want to, like, you feel crazy.
No.
And-
I've had a suicide plan twice in my life. The first was when I was 17. I mean, I was going to do it, and this complete stranger I was working at the merry-go-round. I don't know if you guys even know what that is, but it was a store in the mall, and I was folding clothes, and we were getting ready the store was getting ready to close, and she just came in out of nowhere, and she asked me what I was doing tonight. She's like, "What are you doing tonight?" And my plan tonight was to take all of my mother's prescription drugs and drink strawberry Boone's Farm until I passed out and die. That was my plan. And just in a 3-minute conversation, you know, she was like, "I don't know what's going on with you, but," and I personally think she was an angel, because there's just like no other explanation for it. There's no other explanation for it. She was just like, "I don't know what you've got going on. I don't know what you're planning, but you know, you were born for bigger things, and you need to remember that."
Amazing.
Oh, that just gave me chills.
Yeah. Anything. And then my second suicide plan was when I was living in my car and pregnant. I was living in a parking garage, and it was 7 stories, and I would just think, I'm just going to climb up. I'm just going to go to the 7th story, and I'm just going to jump. You know, I probably won't live. Like, I don't know people that can survive that. And, you know, I even like would walk up there, and it was freezing cold outside. It was Georgia, but Georgia does get cold, and, as Audrey probably knows.
I do.
It was freezing cold, and I would just walk up there and just like look where I could, you know, jump and definitely die. And then again, I was sitting, because I was going to college at the time that I was living in my car, and we had a substitute professor, and he probably figured out, you know, that I was wearing the same clothes every day, and I smelled, but I was coming to class and I was doing the thing. And he gave me a copy of Think and Grow Rich and by Napoleon Hill. And he was like, "This book is not about money. This book is about you." And you know, if I hadn't been homeless and living in my car, I never would have read the book. But one of the things in the book is like, you need to look at your life and the result of how you're living right now. That's how you think. And it just hit me. And I was just like, yeah, I think I'm garbage that deserves to be living in my car and with no support and no love. And I was just like, nope, I'm not doing this. And 3 weeks later, the same professor that had given me that book, you can look it up. It's the coldest winter on record in Georgia when I was living in my car. And he knocked on my car window, and he was just like, "You're going to die. Like, you're going to freeze to death." This is, you know, because I was like shivering and my fingers were starting to turn. And he was like, "My wife is waiting for us, you know." And I told her about you, and we have a bed ready for you, and you need to come and just stay with us for a couple of days until we can just figure something out.
That's
Um,
amazing.
it is amazing.
There are good people out there.
There
We're very good people. There are good people, and I got in I was like, well, I was going to kill myself anyway. So if he's lying and he's going to kill me, and I don't have nothing to lose. Like, nothing to lose. Only. But they were wonderful, and it really was the beginning of my spiritual journey. It really was. God is real. This is real.
He's been watching you.
Yeah, and it wasn't perfect, but that's what people need to know is like.
But you also wouldn't be who you are and where you are if you didn't go through that.
Right.
None of us would.
I think people think that just because you have like a breakthrough or a big aha moment, or like, you're rescued out of a situation, that life just gets great.
Yeah.
I meditated every day after that. The angels came. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
No,
Life is a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster.
Up
And it's
down. Life is scary, man.
it's funny because while yesterday we were waiting and we were speaking to Tommy and kind of that whole like roller coaster thing and being like successful and going from like where I was to where I am now in my life and still feeling so just like lonely.
Yeah.
I have 6 kids. How am I so how are you lonely? Because I am. That's just the part. That's a part of my life that I'm not. Yeah, exactly. And then and it's crazy because I know people will look at me and they're like, you're nuts. But like my older ones are getting older and they don't need you and they changed and they love you different and you miss that. Like, I wasn't getting that, from anyone else. So like, ooh, look, new baby. And it starts all over again. And I became addicted to that feeling of just like, I love you so much. And I love my kids and I will do anything and everything for them. But it's just not, and then you realize like, that's not what you're looking for. That's not the lonely feeling that I'm trying to fill. It's something else. And it doesn't matter like that I have all of these other things that are going great in my life. That doesn't mean that my life is here and I'm just like always here and like, yay. No, I have shit fucking days. I have weekends that I don't want to talk to people. I have days that I don't want to move from bed. And then I have days that are amazing and great. And I do appreciate my life and where I am now. And I have to learn to accept that everything that happened to me up to this point is why I'm here. So, that's the journey I guess I'm on.
Yeah. The golden nugget and all of that though, Audrey, is this. The loneliness that you feel inside of you is because you are missing you.
I tell her that all the time. I'm like, you need to be comfortable in yourself and figure out you before.
Yeah, it's not. No, we're taught from I think from inception to look on the outside.
Yeah.
For our fulfillment on the inside. For me, it was guys. Like I just wanted to find the perfect guy, and every guy is perfect. Right? I think
Still or not.
Just like
I love Tommy's face. He's like, yeah, we are.
yeah, just like every woman is perfect. We're all perfectly imperfect, right? So I could go to 4.5 billion guys, and it does nothing. So I just want to. I hope that you and anyone that's listening to the podcast right now really gets and understands how I'm going to leave my mark on this podcast, which is until I really went in and understood Allyson's heart at 3 years old. and 4 years old and 5 years old and 6 years old. And the trauma that she was experiencing and all of the stories that she made up about herself as a result of that trauma. It wasn't until then, and I'm not talking about the surface level stories of like, I'm not enough or no one loves me. I'm talking about the deep shit. The stuff that
they block out.
the people, the stuff that people don't want to look at about themselves. Right?
Well, I'm listening to you, but all I'm thinking is I don't want to go back down that rabbit hole. I barely survived it the first time. I don't want to do it again.
Right. But the thing is that you go back as an observer, not a participant. And when you go back as an observer, you're not reliving the trauma. When you go back as an observer, it's like looking at one of your children and saying, we got to fix this because I'm not having you go another day in your life feeling and experiencing life through this lens that you do right now. And when I went back and rescued myself from each phase of my life and allowed myself as an observer to see the stories that my little self was living in, I'm just going to tell you right now, my lips would not be close to this microphone. I would not be on camera right now. I would not be making the impact that I'm making right now in the world had I not gone back and rescued her. And I'm just going to say, anyone listening to this, like, this is work that you cannot do by yourself. You have to have someone that is holding you, if not physically, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually, holding space for you and holding your heart while you go through it, because it is painful, because you're observing the little person that went through absolute, complete fucking hell. But then once you get on the other side of it, it's just like your little self is free. Like he or she never has to ever feel that ever again. And it becomes just this whole life that you can walk through Times Square understanding that you're safe and no one is going to crush you.
Yeah.
And that's the life that I wish for every person on this planet, honestly. What a different world we would live in.
No, I get it. I get it. It's finding the strength to get there. I hear you.
Yeah.
Just finding that.
You won't find it. So stop looking for it. You need to just make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're waiting to feel a certain way or to get a sign or whatever. This is your sign. This is it. So if it's not, I always tell people, if it's not me, find somebody.
You're amazing. Like, I feel like what you were saying and talking, like, it really did hit home in a lot of aspects. And it's awesome that you were on here and just sharing your story. And
thank you.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 42.
That was totally like very empowering.
Yeah.
that was amazing. I feel like I totally like connected with her on a bunch of different, like, I was just like, wow,
On
like
different levels. Like everybody has like their shit that they've gone through, and we all, it's so good to see people thriving.
We're in the early stages of the show, but that was the first one, and most of them have been fun. But
yeah.
that really like hit you like deep, like wow.
Yeah, I felt like I was gonna cry a few times on this one. I was like, damn. I was like, hold on.
I did.
Audrey did enough for everyone.
I was
Definitely
like
did.
wiping my eyes, but I was like, don't like tear. I was like, it's okay. It's okay. But he was amazing.
She mentioned some really important things, and one is like, she went back to childhood trauma and healing childhood trauma, because that imprints on us and informs how we are as adults, and we're always looking for. It's not corny to say, but it's almost like we're always looking for that hug from our mom or a dad. Even in older, you want that like you said, Audrey, when you have a baby, that love you feel when you hug them.
Yeah.
We're looking for that as adults that we had as, the thing we had as a kid, we look at that feeling and it's hard. It's really hard because sometimes it's not there,
No, yeah. And when you're not, she had to go back and like open those doors, and everybody doesn't want to open those doors, and that's
No.
fear that Jen and I have spoken about for
Oh,
years.
minor. I don't remember a lot of my childhood.
Neither
It's
do I.
I blocked that shit out.
Right. But one thing that really hit me that she said was that you're not going back and reliving it. You're going back as an
No,
observer.
observer.
It's almost like you're in It's a Wonderful Life and you're seeing your life,
Yeah.
described.
No, but
It's
that's
like,
still scary.
And still,
it is.
because there are things that I don't remember
Right.
that I've
Yeah.
gone through. And when they start to open, like over this weekend, that's what was happening. I was
Yeah.
getting bombarded by images of my past.
Yeah.
And
No, thank you. No.
yeah, like,
Thank you.
and that's what put me in that bad, space, because I couldn't shut it up.
Yeah. So the question is, you're in survival mode, so you're pushing it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what she said is when you're ready or when time is right, that's when you go back and say, okay, I'm going to slay these demons, or at least
Yeah.
I'm going to,
Yeah. Try.
peace with this, or try to.
Try.
Right. But also, if self-preservation means you just push it down, then
Yeah.
push it down.
Hey, you know what? That works for a lot of people.
Put on the jellyfish suit,
Get
put on your armor.
your sanity, just hey, and that didn't happen, and keep it moving this way.
It's super funny that our that our daughters are like I tell Aubrey all the time, she's so much braver
Yeah.
than she realizes.
Oh yeah.
Because while yes, she looks like me and there are a lot of like mannerisms that she has that are like me, the shit that she does I never would have done
Yeah.
because I would have been too scared.
And-
Like the cosplay, the costumes, the dressing up. Dude, I love that shit. But I would never walk around just like, because it's different when no one knows who you are inside the costume. But this
Right.
girl, they walk around in costumes that you see them.
Yeah.
And you see that they're dressed up. It's
Well-
obviously not the way they look.
We all have similar age daughters, and
Yeah.
it's a great point you make, because I'd say that to Molly too, because she's like, we're getting in cosplay and we're going to the mall.
That's
It's
what
like-
mine does.
Everyone is going to
Yeah.
be staring at you. Everyone
Yes.
know that, and
They
they're
don't
like,
care.
No,
Sure.
they're totally comfortable in themselves. It's just really cool.
It's really
It is amazing that they can have that confidence. Because I know I did not have that at that age. No way.
"God, me
Okay.
neither."
I,
Yeah, if my socks didn't match. And, Allison made a great point about growing up and having no food in the house. It was a great story about the potato. But I remember, like, if people came to our house and they saw, remember Pathmark had like the No Frills brand,
Yes.
and I was like, oh my god, they're gonna see we have no frills. Everyone's gonna talk about it at school. It's like such anxiety. Like, don't look at that.
Dude, my brothers, if you ever ask them about the Dr. Pepper shoes,
The what?
the Dr. Pepper sneakers. So my mom one year for Christmas couldn't. So like my biological mother had me up until like our parents got divorced, and then our lives just kind of like blew up. But she went out and we didn't have a lot of money, so she bought these sneakers, I think from like Walmart. They were just like cheap sneakers that they were shoes, and they got made fun of so much. And it's so funny because by the time we got into or maybe I got into high school, shit like that was like what was being made. Like people will walk around with
well,
their
that's
Dr.
what
Pepper
happens now.
back in it.
A lot
Yep.
of the stuff from back then now that's like cool. And people are like wearing it.
But they got made fun of.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been caught dead wearing some of that shit. And now it's like, eh.
Case in point. I'm sure all of our daughters, I know Aubrey does, and I know my daughters do. They love going thrifting. Now, if you had something from Goodwill growing up, you would never hear the
No.
right?
No,
Wouldn't tell nobody.
No way. And now they're all wearing
embarrassing.
even hand-me-downs. It's like, oh, you have your cousin's shirt on. It's like, what's wrong with you,
I
loser?
remember going to like Caldors, and that was like, oh, that was like for bad clothes.
Yep.
Like you were wearing like the ghetto clothes from Caldors.
Sears. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude. A friend of mine when I was younger, her mom would like give me these bags of clothes, like garbage bags of clothes. At some she just like one. I used to go to their house all the time, and one day she's just like, oh, I was going through the girls' stuff. I have all of these clothes that they grew out of, and they would fit you. They totally fit you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so cool, so happy, super excited. I get this bag full of fucking clothes. I'm going through them, and a lot of them had tags on them. I found out years later,
Yeah.
she bought those clothes for me. They were not hand-me-downs. Yeah.
Like
Because-
Allyson said,
Yeah.
never take an angel moment for granted.
No.
That was an angel
No,
moment for you.
that was, dude. And you know that love and happiness I felt in that and I thought they were hand-me-downs. I had no fucking clue they were brand new. It was years later that the girl, like, I don't know, we might have bumped into each other or something, and we were talking, and I told her, I was like, dude, you don't know what that meant to me, like that your mom did that.
Yep.
And she goes, those weren't hand-me-downs. She bought those for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that's exactly what she mentioned. That was kind of the thrust of the show, that there's always people there to kind of lift you up a little bit. And we need it. Everyone needs it.
They're everywhere, and they come at the moments when
Yep.
you need them.
But we also need to not forget to be that for people.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's I definitely try. That's
I try so hard.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
Jen, did anything show up yesterday?
Oh my God! Did Kylie didn't message you, dude? She was so happy. She was so happy. She's sleeping with the bear. It's in bed with her.
Not a live bear, right?
No, Audrey sent her one of those edible arrangements with the bear,
Oh, nice.
and the bear and the balloon are in bed with her, and she was so happy yesterday. She was.
So it could be something like that, something sweet. It could be something
was
she said.
so sad.
She's so sad. And
It was so sad. And then she tried to shower, and she's like, "Mom, I couldn't shower." She's like, "I had to get out." She couldn't lift her hands, so she's like, she got out all wet. So I had to go. I was like, "Don't worry." I was like, "Tomorrow I'll wash your hair for you." And I was like, "I got you." Well,
The old
you.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was so
You must be
sad.
me again.
And it could be something like that, or something as simple as words that
Yeah.
Allyson mentioned, that the person's like, you're better than this. You're more than this.
Yeah. We have to remember that words also hurt. So sometimes we
Yeah.
say things to people.
Words do.
And we
Words
don't.
are powerful.
They take it the wrong. They can also take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
So there's a thing like Bruce Lee has that saying, like, that words are like spelling. You know, it's spelling for like the letters of the words, and that kind of when you say stuff, you're kind of casting a spell. So even if it's like bad stuff or good stuff, like it's going out there. So you got to think about what you're saying. It's
Love Bruce Lee.
words hurt. Bruce
Words
Lee is
do.
awesome.
Words hurt. They also uplift though too. So
Yeah, they
Yeah,
can
use it
heal or hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
And what a great show. That was awesome. Someone
That was
none
awesome.
of us had any relationship with. She came on.
No, and Allyson is amazing. And the fact that she's doing so much to like help other people out there too. Like she got that support. She's providing that support, and she's a true inspiration.
Yeah, and with a horrible backstory. So
Yeah.
she made the most of it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, she.
And it just shows you like humor sometimes to get you through some shit that
Absolutely.
nothing else will.
And humor does, man. It got me through a lot.
Yeah, she hit you guys both on separate points that like
Yeah.
very similar stories, you know?
I was just like, holy shit, when she was talking, I was just like, whoa. Oh,
I did, but that's why I was like, we have very similar stories.
Both of you guys both like on the nose, you know, Audrey.
Yeah.
Her, being homeless in her car, and like you being at the drive-through and coming from that stuff. Jen, you being adopted and looking for your father. I mean, it was a pretty
Yeah.
powerful show today.
I was just like, wow.
And awesome job by you guys. Allyson Roberts, ALLYSON Roberts.com. You can find out about her there. And yeah, we thank her for coming on the show.
Yeah, she was amazing.
so much.
Thank you.
Good
Bye,
night.
y'all.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Rule 42 is hosted by Audrey Cruz and Jen Burke. It is produced and edited by Tom Smith. The opening song is Rule 42 by Eddie Carr. Rule 42's artwork was created by Aubrey Cruz. And I'm your announcer, Molly Smith. Thank you for listening to Rule 42. We hope you enjoyed the show. New episodes premiere every Thursday on all podcast platforms. Please subscribe, share the show, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple.